So I know you're going through a lot, so we're not going to keep you here all night. Can we go through this? So, okay, let's see, 148 doorbell detected visitor. What does that mean?
So the doorbell has a camera on it when you get up to a certain proximity, and when you ring it, it detects a visitor.
Okay. People are already distracting me out here.
Oh.
So in fact, let's do this. So I work a lot of stuff like this in bank robberies, and when I talk to, a witness at a bank robbery, sometimes I find it best for them to just say, tell me what happened, get it all out, and then once you get it out, let's go over it, okay? So just get it all out as far as this. Tell me exactly what you remember, and I'll take notes about where we can go.
Okay. So this 1:48 a.m.
Let me switch chairs. Because when they come knocking, when they come knocking, I gotta use that key. Do you need more water?
No,
I brought you Gatorade.
Oh, thanks.
All right.
Alright, so 1:40 a.m., doorbell detects the visitor. So when we were over at the neighbor's house, the next day we were looking at his camera as well, and it didn't show anybody walking up to the driveway, which is kind of weird. That's one reason I put that on there, because it showed Nicole dropping her off, but nobody actually walking up to the house. It was kind of weird, but she was in the house.
Okay.
So,
and what time are we talking?
This is still 1:48.
Okay.
So, 2 a.m., Shanann gets in the bed with me. 4 a.m., that's when my alarm goes off for work, and I'm supposed to get dressed, brush my teeth, everything I do upstairs.
Okay.
4:15, that's when I get back, slide right into bed next to her, and start having a conversation with her about having the house up for sale, and talking about actually proceeding with the separation.
Okay.
And obviously it gets pretty emotional, like we're talking about, we felt the disconnection was there, like falling out of love, and trying to stay together, maybe just for the kids' sake, but we're realizing that doing our homework, it's not, most of the time that's not gonna work.
Yeah.
And it gets pretty emotional because we have 2 beautiful kids and we have 1 on the way. So it's just a matter of it was very emotional, we were both crying, and at the end, we just said, she said she was gonna take the kids to her friend's house for the day, and she would be back. Okay. And I was like, okay, it's fine. And so I went downstairs, made my protein shake. It was at 5 a.m., that's when I did that. Packed my lunchbox, had my oatmeal, chicken, filled my water jug up. 5:15, I went outside, backed my truck up, loaded up, had my book bag, my lunchbox, computer, water jug, my big clear container. I put big clear containers.
7 years. 7 long years behind a prison door that will never open for him again. Chris Watts, once the smiling, soft-spoken dad next door, now wakes up every day inside Dodge Correctional Institution in Wisconsin. No family photos on the walls. No children's laughter echoing down the hallway. Just the constant hum of fluorescent lights and the unending truth of what he did. The murders of Shanann Watts, who was 15 weeks pregnant with baby Nico, and their daughters, Bella and Celeste, shocked the world in August 2018. A father extinguishing the very lives he was meant to protect. A husband transforming into a monster overnight. In the years since, public silence has been his only option. But privately, those who have kept in contact with him describe a man crumbling. They say he struggles with nightmares, waking up in cold sweats. They claim he tells friends through monitored phone calls that every day feels like reliving that night. He is isolated. He is watched. He is haunted. According to a prison contact, he has said something chilling yet desperate. I don't know how much longer I can take this. A statement that sounds less like remorse and more like a man drowning in his own consequences. The world rarely spares sympathy for a family annihilator, and rightfully so. But this sudden emotional unraveling sparks 2 conflicting reactions. Is this justice finally sinking its teeth in, or the twisted self-pity of someone who still sees himself as the victim? 7 years later, Chris Watts is begging for an end to his personal nightmare, while the world will never forget the nightmare he created. Prison hasn't just taken away Chris Watts' freedom. It has taken away the version of himself he once showed the world. Before his conviction, he was the quiet one at neighborhood barbecues. The man who fixed cars. The dad who lifted his daughters high into the air as they squealed with joy. But that was a character. A mask. And in prison, masks fall apart fast. Those who've crossed paths with him behind bars describe a man who keeps to himself. He avoids the yard. He eats alone. When other inmates laugh, he stares blankly ahead, as if joy is a language he no longer understands. Guards reportedly say he spends hours reading religious books, seeking forgiveness he may never truly believe he deserves. The rare times he speaks, it's short, measured, cautious, like every word could collapse him further. And yet, the nightmares persist. Screens blister with security footage of him jolting awake, clutching his chest. A man tormented not by empathy, but by memory. He has been overheard saying, "I wish I could just erase it all. Just stop thinking." But that is the curse he must carry. He knows exactly what he did. Every locked door reminds him. Every passing child's voice in the distance reminds him. Every sunrise he sees through steel bars reminds him. He is alive and they are not. His existence now is a clock ticking with no destination. A sentence designed not only to contain him, but to make him confront the truth every second of every day. And still, the world asks, is this punishment enough? There are phone calls that echo through a prison. Calls filled with apologies no one believes, and pain no one forgives. For Chris Watts, communication with the outside world is monitored, documented, and limited. But in those brief minutes on a crackling line, he reportedly breaks. Not with tears for his victims, but with panic over his own existence. Sources close to the facility say Chris has repeated the same desperate words more than once. "I can't do this anymore. This nightmare has to be over." Not a confession, not a revelation, a plea. He fears other inmates, men who hate child killers more than anyone else walking the earth. He fears every sound behind him, every eye that follows him. He fears the day someone decides that his suffering should end violently. Prison officials call it paranoia. Some call it justice. But there's something darker beneath his fear. Because when a man like Chris Watts says he wants the nightmare to end, he isn't thinking about Shanann's terror in her final breaths, or Bella's screams for her mother, or CeCe's tiny hands reaching out for safety that never came. His nightmare is not theirs. His pain is not equal. The self-preservation. A killer who only now tastes fear for the first time. So he keeps talking, keeps begging, keeps hoping someone, somewhere will care about the anguish he put on himself. But the world hasn't forgotten what he did. And forgiveness is a door that will never open for him. If you're following this chilling deep dive into the Watts case, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Dark Matters True Crime so you don't miss the next installment. Chris Watts once built his life on a lie, the lie that he was the calm, loving father who would never hurt his family. But inside prison, there is nothing left to hide behind. Reports describe how Chris has been forced to watch footage from the case in therapy. The house, the truck, his interrogation, his confession. And for the first time, he has to look directly at the monster he became. Some prison staff have claimed he struggles to watch himself, flinching when certain moments replay. Others believe these reactions come not from remorse, but from humiliation. The world saw him unravel. The lies, the awkward phone interviews, the crocodile tears. Every second preserved online forever. Millions of people analyzing every blink, every breath. When other inmates recognize him, they don't see a celebrity. They see a man who killed his own innocent children. One officer reportedly said Chris told him, "I hate that this is who I am now." But that statement is exactly the problem. This isn't who he became. It's who he was the moment he put his hands on his own family. He wants the nightmare to end. Yet for Shanann, Bella, CeCe, and unborn baby Nico, it ended in terror. He claims to pray every day for forgiveness. But prayers do nothing to bring back the lives he destroyed. Some believe his breakdown signals guilt finally surfacing. Others believe it's simply fear, the fear of forever, the fear of judgment that never ends. Chris wanted control more than anything, and now he controls nothing. There are no visits from Shanann's side of the family, no letters, no forgiveness. The Razusek family lives every day with a loss that will never lessen. Shanann was a devoted mother, a fighter against her health struggles, a woman who believed in love and second chances. Bella and CeCe were bursting with life, giggles, toys, and excitement over every little moment. Baby Nico never saw daylight. Those who loved the victims will never allow their memory to fade. Not for a moment. Meanwhile, behind bars, Chris Watts is left with nothing but silence. His own parents, Cindy and Ronnie Watts, are the only family members who continue to speak to him. They choose to believe there is still a lost son buried beneath the horror. But even during those conversations, he cannot escape the shadows. Every question from his mother reminds him of the life he destroyed. Every pause reminds him of what is gone.
Love and support is all I need.
Honey, you've got that. You've got that.
Always had a really crazy imagination. So like when I was a kid, like I even convinced my teacher I went to Japan over the summer or to China or something.
Why did you convince your teacher you had gone to another country?
It was just like what you did over the summer. And I was like, oh, well, it's China. You're still right. She actually believed it. I was really convincing.
So you're a smart dude. Yeah.
It was, they parent-teacher conference said, so how's China? What? Nope.
Home yesterday, it was like a ghost town. Like, she wasn't here. Kids weren't here. I have no idea like where they went. And it's just earth-shattering. I don't feel like this is even real right now. It's like a nightmare that I just can't wake up from. If she's vanished, like I want her back so bad. I want those kids back so bad.
Where'd you get that shirt?
Oh, this is I think she got it off Amazon. I like these shirts a lot.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of good letters from people, just like people of support. So.
Oh, honey, you don't know how much support you had out here. So many people supported you. So many still support you.
There are no birthday parties to miss, because there are no more birthdays, no Father's Day cards, because he wiped out the only people who would have written them. The silence is his punishment, a silence that follows him into the dining hall, into his cold prison cell, into his nightmares where small voices still cry out for their mommy. He took 3 lives and erased a 4th. In return, the world has erased him, frozen him forever as the man who murdered his own family. No legacy, no redemption, just silence. Behind the steel bars, time doesn't heal, it compounds. Day after day, year after year, the reality of his actions presses in on him. For Chris Watts, who murdered his pregnant wife and 2 daughters in August 2018, the isolation is unrelenting. He's serving 5 life terms without possibility of parole at Dodge Correctional Institution in Wisconsin. Letters from him have trickled out over the years. Handwritten pleas, paragraphs of blame, and ever-shifting narratives. In one, he wrote about being a new man in Christ, touting redemption while casting his affair and wife in opposing roles. In others, he shifted blame, calling his former mistress a Jezebel who misled him, invoking biblical language as if twisting faith could undo what he did. The letters reveal more than remorse, they show calculation. He portrays himself as the victim of seduction, marital pressure, and internal collapse. But they never match the stone-cold precision of the crime or the confession he gave to investigators months earlier. Behind the pleas to be forgiven lies a chilling truth. In his mind, the nightmare hasn't ended because he refuses to stop controlling the narrative. He asks for pity. He prays for peace. He manipulates his story even from a cell. And for those who lost everything, those listening on the outside, the letters don't provide relief. They provide more questions. If you're following this case and want to keep uncovering the dark truths hidden behind the confessions, please like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to Dark Matters True Crime. The sentence was handed down. The cameras closed. The news vans left town. Yet the earthquake beneath the surface never stopped. And for the community, the family, and the world, the aftershock still ripples. In the months and years after the crime, Facts surfaced that turned shock into something darker. Chris Watts was receiving love letters in prison from people who believed they understood him. He wrote letters himself. To pen pals, to authors, to people miles away who kept asking why. Documents revealed that in the final weeks before the murders he was living a hidden life, planning a future without his family. For Shanann's family, the shock never ended. Every new revelation reopened wounds. Every new detail felt like another betrayal, not just by Chris, but by everyone who believed he once loved Shanann. For the community of Frederick, Colorado, the sense of safety collapsed. Doors locked. Neighbors watched. Sunday barbecues lost their laughter. Trust, once taken for granted, became fragile. And for Chris, the man who wanted a new beginning, there is no end. He is locked. His freedom gone. His life defined by a single night. But his story still moves, still haunts, still raises questions. Because the aftershock is not just what he did. It's what we allowed ourselves to believe. That a smiling dad could never be a monster. That a happy family never hides the storm. That evil always comes with warnings. The verdict is final. The sentence unchangeable. The houses of Frederick, Colorado, will never laugh the same again. But what lasts longest isn't what happened that night. It's what comes after. For Shanann's family, the funeral ended, but the grief didn't. The celebrations stopped, but the memories linger. The world watched, and then it moved on, but they stayed. For Chris Watts, the sentence was handed down. 5 life terms without possibility of parole. His sentence means he will, every day, pay for what he did. Locked away. No children growing up. No wife at his side. Just the walls. Just the silence. Just the echo of Bella and CeCe and baby Nico, whose voices can never fill the rooms they once did. Yet, he still holds onto a version of himself that escaped nothing. He still appears in letters, phone calls, and reports, chasing forgiveness, chasing relief, chasing a reprieve that may never come. And the world still watches, not to forgive, not to forget, but to remember, because in true crime, in real life, the consequences don't stop when the case closes. They stretch out into years, into generations, into a legacy of pain. If you found this story a reminder of how thin the line between ordinary and monstrous can be, please like this video, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to Dark Matters True Crime, where we keep telling the stories others tried to bury. Bell turn on notifications so you never miss another case we dig into.
Has considered the arguments made by the attorneys. The court has considered the statements made by the victims in this case. The court's going to find that the plea agreement is fair and reasonable under the circumstances. I want to acknowledge the Rusick family as well as the Watts family that showing mercy on Mr. Watts is understood, and I respect that decision to request that the district attorney not seek the death penalty in this case. And so the court is going to accept this plea bargain under the circumstances. Words that come to mind when I hear the evidence in this case are a senseless crime and the viciousness of the crime. And equally aggravating in this court's determination is the despicable act of disposing of the bodies in the manner in which they were done in this case. I've been a judicial officer now for starting my 17th year, and I could objectively say that this is perhaps the most inhumane and vicious crime that I have handled out of the thousands of cases that I have seen. And nothing less than a maximum sentence would be appropriate. And anything less than the maximum sentence would depreciate the seriousness of this offense. So the court is going to sentence Mr. Watts as follows. With regard to count number 1, murder in the first degree as it relates to Shanann Watts, the court is going to sentence you, sir, to a life sentence in the Colorado Department of Corrections, followed, with no possibility of parole. And that is going to run consecutively to all but counts 3 and 4. With regard to count 2, as it relates to murder in the first degree with Bella, the court is going to sentence you to life in the Colorado Department of Corrections with no possibility of parole. With regard to count number 3, the court is going to sentence you as it relates to Celeste to life in the Colorado Department of Corrections with no possibility of parole. With regard to counts 4 and 5 relating to Bella and Celeste as a different theory of first-degree murder, the court is going to sentence you to life in the Colorado Department of Corrections, and legally those sentences must run concurrently as a different theory of first-degree murder. Recognizing the unlawful termination of pregnancy for the unborn child that has been named Nico, the court absolutely believes that the maximum sentence of 48 years would be appropriate to run consecutive to the other charges, with an additional mandatory parole period of 3 years as set forth by statute. With regard to count number 7, as it relates to tampering with a deceased body, as well as counts 8 and 9, each a class 3 felony, the court is going to impose a maximum sentence of 12 years each for those counts to run consecutively to the other counts. The court is going to order that the statutory fees be paid and court costs. The court's going to grant the prosecution 91 days to file a notice of restitution, and that will be the sentence of the court. We will shortly be in recess. I would respectfully ask the parties that you remain in your seat. There is a plan by the deputies on allowing people to exit the courtroom, so please remain seated until you are authorized to leave the courtroom based on the direction of the deputies. Deputies, I would respectfully ask that you take this defendant into custody and have him serve the rest of his life in the Department of Corrections. We are in recess.
Please rise.